Welcome to Split in Croatia, where we are about to embark on what I fully suspect will be one of the most remarkable boating experiences of my life. Because for the next few days, we are going to be exploring some of the highlights of the Croatian coastline and islands in none other than a 50-metre super yacht.
And here she is. This is our home for the next few days and nights. She is called Ohana. She is 50 metres long. She was built here in Croatia in 2020 and has just been the subject of an extensive refit. Now, rather unusually, she was built for and belongs to the captain of the yacht who will be looking after us for the next few days. It's quite a common thing here in Croatia, apparently, to build these yachts and run them as a business. But she is chartered out by Gullitz as part of their unique DS yachts fleet, which is specifically reserved for yachts like this over 40 metres to give a real flavour of the full super yacht experience. I thought I'd start by giving you a very quick tour of Ohana, because she's a little bit different to most 50-metre super yachts. Now, this is the sun deck, and as you can see, it's got all the unusual amenities. We've got masses and masses of sunbathing space all around. We've got a couple of rather neat sort of hanging egg-style chairs that you can tuck yourself away in, lots of sofas. And then as we move back, you can see we've even got a gym over in one side, and a hot tub towards the aft deck, masses of sunbathing space, and even an egg barbecue for beautiful barbecues in the evening. But what starts to make it rather different is when you move lower down to the main deck, because whereas most super yachts are set up probably for 12 to 15 guests and 6 or 7 cabins, this is very much for larger groups of people. So it has up to 14 cabins and can host up to 30 people on board. And the idea is to give people a super yacht experience without quite the insane expense that would normally be the case on a 50-metre yacht. So prices for this boat start at around 80,000 euros per week, up to about 100,000, depending on season. But the difference being that if you can fit as many as 30 people on board, that suddenly brings the price down to around £3,000 per head, rather than the normally almost insane prices that's going to be more like sort of £50,000 a head. So that means you've got to squeeze a lot of cabins into a relatively small space. So here we are on the lower deck, on the raised deck, and you can see that here we've got a nice aft cockpit area, so you can all sit outside and eat. And then if you come through, there is a bar area up here. Because it's first thing in the morning, it's not really set up as a bar just yet, but you can see you've got a full working bar, some nice seating around it. And then when you move through, most of this deck is actually cabin space. So you can see we've got cabins either side here, cabins 2 and 3. And then we've got another cabin forward here. This is cabin number 1. And then if you move down a deck, we've got yet more cabin space. So we've got cabins 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 along here on the main deck. I'm sure we'll take a look at a few of them in a minute. And then if we go down here, we've got 11, 12, 13, 14. So you get the idea. A lot of the yacht is given over to cabin space rather than entertainment. But it has nevertheless still got all the toys. And you can see here we've got the dining room set up, and we're just starting to gather for breakfast, so you can get an idea of how the boat is actually arranged. Let me give you a quick tour of our cabin. Ours is number 3. We're on the main deck. As you can see, it's a twin, but there are, of course, doubles. Now, you do have to charter the whole yacht. You can't just book a cabin, so it's very much down to you and your group as to how you allocate them. But ours has the benefit of being on the upper deck. You've got these lovely big windows with a fantastic view out. Now, they are, of course, smoked, so you can't view in from the outside, but you do get a lovely view out. Now, they're quite decent sized beds. They're probably 3 foot wide. Relatively neutral decor. It's not overly flash. It's not the kind of standard you usually find on a state-of-the-art mega yacht. It's more like a mini cruise ship, albeit a very luxurious one. So there's not a huge amount of space, but you've got a nice little desk in the corner. You've got a hanging wardrobe over on the right-hand side. There's a television up here, and of course an ensuite bathroom. So again, relatively compact. If you're going to fit 14 cabins on a 50-metre boat, that's almost inevitable, but you do have really good quality facilities. You've got everything you need. There's a lovely shower, plenty of daylight, air conditioning, and a simply wonderful view. We left Split this morning and are now cruising out between two of the islands just off Split. So on our port side, this is the island of Brac, and over to starboard is the island of Saltar. And this is a typical view of cruising around the islands of Croatia. It's a beautiful little church, what looks like on the point there, and a stunning view over the sun deck of Ohana. It's 10 o'clock in the morning, and this is the kind of view that we're very quickly getting used to aboard Ohana. We're just cruising gently along at about 8 knots, surrounded by beautiful Croatian scenery. There's these lovely mountains, quite steep and pockmarked with little scrub and trees, and the occasional farmhouse with a vineyard clinging to the side of it. And this lovely, silky smooth, deep blue sea, just pottering along at a gentle 8 knots or so. Gentle cooling breeze. Just idyllic cruising conditions. We've pulled into a very pretty bay on the island of Brac, and it's known as Golden Cap because there's an ever-shifting sandbar that is constantly moving and tweaking and changing in terms of shape and direction, but it creates this lovely little protected swimming zone. You can see there are some boys out with a couple of paddle boarders, and we're towing our tender, but I think we're going to anchor up here and explore on land a little bit and get a flavour of what the Croatian coast is all about. We've come to a halt just outside the city of Bol, behind me here on the island of Brac. We've dropped anchor. We're going to enjoy the area a bit, have a little explore around town, and maybe go for a swim in the beautiful waters here. But what an idyllic spot. There she is, all 50 metres of Ohana anchored up off the city of Bol on the island of Brac. Now, we've just been dropped off in the harbour in Bol and walked our way along the coast to this beach. This is the Golden Cap beach, and it's just spectacular. Now, as with most of Croatia, it's a kind of pebbly beach, but the water itself is crystal clear. Beautiful turquoise colour. Relatively refreshing. It's about 20 degrees at the end of May, but the air temperature is 28 or so, and it's absolutely perfect for swimming. Just look at that view. One of the beauties of cruising in Croatia is that round every corner there appears to be another perfect little spot. This is the local fishing port in the harbour of Bol on the island of Brac. And everything is built out of the local Brac white marble, which gives it a wonderfully clean, bright look. And with that turquoise sea, it's just a perfect little slice of paradise. We've just spent the afternoon motoring across from Bol to a new harbour on the island of Vis. And you can see behind me here, we've just come in through the entrance. It's a relatively narrow entrance with a little islet on the way in. And you can see it's a beautiful natural bay, surrounded on all sides by mountains as usual. And just at the head of the bay, a small town in a classical Croatian style with white stucco fronts and terracotta roofs. And I believe we're going to come alongside here. I think we're going to stop in town and spend the night on a berth in the marina. So we look forward to finding out what Vis has to offer. This is my wife, Rebecca, who has very bravely volunteered to come along on the trip with me. How has your afternoon been?
Been lovely. After a morning in Bol on the beach swimming and exploring, had a lovely lunch on board the boat, and then we've just been reading in the sun whilst the boat has been transferring from Bol to Vis, which has taken about 3 hours.
Pretty hectic afternoon then.
Been very hectic, not too shabby at all. And here comes your beer that is just about to be given to you too.
Don't give that away. It's only 5:30.
Rumbled. There we go.
Now that is what I like to see. Is that for me?
This is yours.
Thank you very much. A perfect cold
Cheers.
beer and an Aperol. Cheers. I'll drink to that. Thank you very much, Aiden. All right. Now this is always fun to watch. We're in the harbour of Vis and they're just dropping the anchor out front so that we can back gradually towards the quay. And you can see it's quite a long way out. We are going to try and go astern into that slot there and nudge up next to this other big super yacht called Freedom. So always quite a tricky manoeuvre. You can see there's a fairly strong cross breeze, but the captain is now gradually easing us astern. And with any luck, we'll just squeeze perfectly into that slot waiting for us at the quay. Here we go. Here we are, just tucking up the last few meters. Next to the quay. Deckhand on duty with a large fender. Marinero on the quay, waiting to take our lines. Little burst of power to steady us. Straighten up. Windward side first, and the starboard one. We are officially on our berth. Job done. Very neat. Here we are in the town of Vis, which I'm told is the oldest town in Croatia. And if you look behind me here, just in the distance, you can see Ohana, the longest boat on the quay by some margin, tucked under the mountains with the rest of the town spread out around her. And a very pretty church just at the entrance to the harbour. Another stunning spot. As anticipated, we spent the afternoon in Vis exploring the beautiful town, which really was a very attractive spot. And then retired for the evening on board, where we were served a lovely meal of freshly cooked steak, and then retired to the aft cockpit for a few cocktails and gin and tonics, and then spent the night on the berth in Vis before waking early to find that we were already underway. And as you can see, we're making passage now. It's another glorious day in Croatia, and I think the plan for today is to anchor up in a quiet bay and perhaps get out some of Ohana's many water toys. So I think we've got jet skis and sea bobs and slides and tenders for water skiing and wakeboarding and so on. So with any luck, we'll get a look at those. But in the meantime, it's another glorious day in paradise. We're just cruising past the city of Hvar on the island of Hvar. And it's beautiful surroundings. There's a big medieval looking fort up on the hills. There's islands all around. Lots of yachts moored up. And once again, it looks like a perfect little spot. Well, this is where we have chosen to anchor. And rather cleverly, what they're doing is dropping the anchor off the bow because it's such a tight little bay between two islands that in order to stop the boat swinging round, they're also putting a couple of stern lines ashore. So you can see the little tender has just been ashore. They've attached a line to one or two of the rocks over there, and then we're gradually backing towards it so that the lines will hold us as close to shore as possible and prevent us swinging while the anchor will stop us moving. But what a brilliant little spot for a 50-metre boat tucked between two islands, and the gap between those two islands is probably only about 40 metres. So it is a remarkably small little bay for such a big boat. But thanks to the skill of the crew, we're going to be perfectly located between the two islands, sheltered from the breeze, and hopefully a wonderful spot to get out a few toys, perhaps even this one. And just look how close we're getting to the shore. We're really only probably 15 metres from the shore at most, and you can see how clear the water is. You can see the rocks beneath it, but there's clearly just enough depth for us to tuck in here. But that's a testament to the captain and the crew that he's confident enough to do that on a boat of this size. Here comes the stern line. Let's throw it across. Make it fast to that aft cleat. And you can see that running to shore, holding us steady. And the final step in the process is just to attach a buoy to the floating line to make sure nobody tries to sneak through between us and the shoreline. But that's a very slick operation by the crew. Well, as promised, we've anchored in a beautiful little spot between two of the islands, and the full fleet of water toys are out. So we've got an inflatable deck using as our kind of temporary harbour. We've got a sea bob out. We've got a stand-up paddleboard, we've got a jet ski, and we've got an e-tron foil board. So I've already had a go on that. It is fiendishly tricky, but it is absolutely magical feeling once you get going and you're hovering above the surface of the water, a sort of foot or two off the surface, just whizzing along in absolute silence with an electric motor, doing all the work, and literally feeling like you're flying on a small magic carpet. But really is a very magical spot. Just check out the colour of that water. It's around 22 degrees, beautifully clear and perfectly sheltered. Right, we are now going to have a go at e-foiling, which is much the trickiest of all of these. But the theory is I have a little hand throttle here that I press and that sets the motor going, and then there's a foil underneath me, which if I can get going fast enough and get my balance right, we should actually lift up on the foil. So start off, get on the knees. Once you're on your knees, gradually set up. So, we've got an opportunity to try the yacht's sea bob. And the great thing about sea bobs is that anybody can use them. They're really not difficult. You've just got an electric motor with a water jet and a powerful lithium-ion battery,
and it suddenly turns you into the Michael Phelps of the swimming world. So if I just press the two buttons to engage it, and then there's a hand throttle just under here, squeeze that, and you're off straight away. And then if I press the green button, it picks up the pace, go faster and faster, and you're absolutely careering along. And the whole thing is entirely waterproof, so as well as going on the water, you can go under, like this. Such a lot of fun. It's not as quick as something on the toys like the foil board or anything like that. But because it doesn't require an awesome amount of skill, it's a hugely popular toy. And you can see why. Just cruise around relatively gently, or up the pace, and have a real blast. In fact, you can go under it. Well, that has been pretty much my perfect morning. We've anchored in an idyllic spot between these Croatian islands, and we've got all the water toys out. And when I say all, you can see what I mean. There's an entire fleet of toys. We've got paddle boards, we've got kayaks, we've got an e-tron e-foil board, we've got a sea bob, we've got jet skis, and I've had a go at absolutely all of them. And for me, this is what the super yachting lifestyle is all about. You've got a beautiful boat to stay on, you've got a stunning location, and you've got a whole heap of toys to play with. For me, that is perfection. And just when you thought life couldn't get any more spoiling, we have now got lunch on the aft deck, a wonderful buffet of giant prawns, steak, chicken, cauliflower, salads, all taken on the aft deck in this very beautiful spot. Life doesn't get a great deal better than that. So we're on the tender and heading for Hvar town. Where we're heading off to the town over there.
Santa Clara.
How about that for a spectacular entry into a harbour? Dominated by a huge medieval castle on the hill. A very smart super yacht already on the quay. And there's beautiful Venetian buildings all around, including a stunning clock tower over there. It's already full of boats, but that's not entirely surprising. I think that has to be one of the most spectacular entrances to a harbour I think I've ever seen. We've seen some very pretty places on our trip to Croatia, but I've got to say, I think this is the most glorious yet. This is the harbour of Hvar. And its roots go back to 384 AD, when it was an important part of the Phoenician trading route. And then in the Middle Ages, it became part of the Venetian Empire. And I think that's probably the influence that is most outstanding today, is all this glorious white local stone. And it's so clean and so beautifully done. But look at how pretty this is. It's very possibly the most beautiful harbour I've ever visited. We're just climbing the steps to the castle, and the air is full of the scent of jasmine flowers. You can see them just hanging over us, but it's quite a long climb, and I'm hoping it's going to be worth it. We've climbed up Lord knows how many steps to reach the Venetian fortress behind us, but I've got to say that the view is worth it. Check this out. Look at that. Spread out beneath us, under the stone walls of this huge, imposing fortress, is the whole city of Hvar, and the perfect little harbour, and the islands beyond, which are known as the Devil Islands for who knows what reason, but what an extraordinarily beautiful location. Well, as anticipated, it has been a magical couple of days. We've seen so much over the course of our 48 hours on board. We've visited so many different places. And I think at the end of it, we're finishing here in Hvar, and I can safely say that I'm a little bit in love with Hvar, a lot in love with Croatia, and completely bowled over by the whole super yacht experience. But to be honest, Ohana has really been the icing on the cake. You can still enjoy all of this without having to charter a £100,000 super yacht. So if you ever get a chance to go boating in Croatia, make sure you grab it with both hands, because I'm absolutely convinced you will be every bit as bowled over as I have been.